all grown here. So part of it is also just exploring. I'm learning.
And I think from experience, when it comes to the healthy lifestyle in Ghana, a lot of time I think we just stick to what we know.
And we also assume it has to come from outside. Yeah.
We think it's foreign. It needs foreign ingredients, foreign plants and vegetables, expensive. Sometimes the thought of it alone just puts us off. We think that it's so expensive, let me not just go into it.
As women, there are all these hormonal changes as young women that we're experiencing. And there are a lot of hormonal, I don't even use the word issues, but there are a lot of hormonal concerns coming up, whether it's PCOS or thyroid function or adrenal fatigue or these questions are coming up, and a lot of times people don't know that what they're dealing with may be hormonal. So in terms of, and I know you and Valerie have the Women's Health and Nutrition platform. So in terms of how do we eat for our hormones? Because we've heard of eat for your gut, but how do we eat for our wombs to start there? Sally Kokoro is a Ghanaian registered dietitian who is passionate about creating an individualized Ghanaian approach to nutrition and wellness. She describes her food philosophy as experience the pleasure of food by adding a healthy twist to each plate. This ideology serves as the foundation for building Rdsali Nutrition, her wellness agency which aims to make healthy eating practical and African-friendly. Salomey holds a degree in dietetics and a NEPA certificate in health and wellness. Over the years, her experience in dietetics has covered clinical dietetic practice, community nutrition, and workplace wellness. She co-founded Women's Nutrition Ghana with RD Valerie Ajamine to champion healthy lifestyle through nutrition campaigns such as Add a Plant, which encourages women to adopt a plant-forward lifestyle. They successfully organized the first ever nutrition night, which brought together 100 participants, including yours truly, and experts to engage in conversations regarding wellness in Ghana. She describes the whole experience as exceedingly fulfilling to see individuals and families experience the benefit of good health through simple nutritional modifications. I am pleased and over the moon to welcome not just any dietitian, but my very dietitian, Sally Kokoro. Hey guys, Nana Kurma here, and as always, I am here to do what? Help you find your authentic self. So last week, I got super vulnerable on the couch talking about my journey with disordered eating and how I overcame. Today, I'm super excited for the conversation we're having because we have a registered dietitian who's not only just a registered dietitian, but my registered dietitian. We're going to be talking about how to take the power back in your nutrition journey to help you reach all those health and wellness goals. So without further ado, welcome my good friend, Sally.
Hi, Nana. How are you? I'm so happy to see you.
I'm so happy to see you.
Oh, man, it's been a long time. We've been talking, but
you've been my coach on and off for a year, and this is the first time I've seen you in 2 years.
Wow.
So the power of tech. Hi. So we already know your bio, we already know your story, but do you want to just give us like how did you get into the registered dietitian nutritionist game?
Okay. When it comes to nutrition, I growing up, it had always been a topic at home. It had always been a concern. I come from a northern background or northern family, and one key thing that kept on in our almost daily lives was nutrition, foods to eat. When you come to the north, they say there's no grass. Every grass is actually a vegetable. Food, right? Yeah. So in our backyard, we have plants, vegetables growing in the backyard. Whenever you want to make a stew, whenever you want to make a soup, you just go behind and pick it up. But then my conscience came to nutrition when I was in uni. I mean, I met a roommate's friend who mentioned dietetics. I'd never heard of dietetics, but then he explained it in a way that I thought, wow, that's cool. He said, when the way a doctor treats people with medicine, a dietitian treats people or manages people with nutrition. Wow. And I mean, for most people in Ghana, medicine is quite expensive. Going to the hospital is very expensive.
Yeah.
But one thing we all do have at home is food. And if you can flip that in a way that would help your health, that would be great. So I applied for dietetics. I studied dietetics for 3 years, including my 1 year at Legon. And after that, I did a 1 year internship at the Accra General Hospital or Ridge Hospital. From there, I started private practice. I did a bit of clinical practice in dietetics. But then I realized that a lot of times it's more of curative. People are coming to you when they're ill.
Yeah.
You're never meeting them in the middle. You're never meeting them
in the beginning.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, maybe I can start talking to people about nutrition or preventive nutrition. Talk to them about healthy eating. Introduce them to the topic or the concept. Because a lot of times when they come at the disease state or when you're ill, it's all new to them. They're now hearing of it for the first time. Oh, I can add this to that and it will help my health. So I started talking to people. People were embracing the concept a little bit more. I thought of starting a private practice, and it's been amazing. And along the line, I've met so many people who have influenced my journey in dietetics. I've also grown into an aspect of dietetics that I'm a bit more comfortable about, like consulting with people, guiding people through their journey. I think that's what I enjoy the most. And I've collaborated with a number of dietitians as well who seem to be doing amazing stuff.
Right.
And it led me to you.
Right, because we, obviously with my work in health and wellness, and we actually met through Flourish Heights.
Yeah.
Hey there, Valerie. Valerie connected us. She's like my little sister, and just seen her just blossom so much in this. But nutrition in Ghana, this is really, people look at me and they're like, oh, Banana, you're vegan. You seem to know what to eat. Why do you need to see a dietitian? And the reason is we all go through different points in our journey. Now, even when I think I know, I don't always know. It's kind of like a few months back, I called you and I was like, Sally, I feel I'm off. I can't sleep. I'm dizzy. I feel weak and I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I think I'm depressed. And you just said, hey, you know what? You're describing what sounds like to me an iron deficiency. And I was like, I've been anemic on and off my entire life. But I was like, ew. You're like, yeah, with your busy lifestyle. Yeah. So I guess I want to talk a little bit more about like, when would one see a dietitian? I see a dietitian anyway, because I just believe in getting help when I can. I see it as seeing a therapist. I don't need to wait till my world falls apart before. So like, when would someone
need to see a dietitian?
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to dietetic professionals, so let me just lump it together, dietitians and nutrition professionals, they are trained in a way that they can actually manage anyone across all the age ranges. So from pediatrics to geriatrics, you can see any patients within the time. Now, a dietitian cannot force you to follow her recommendations or whatever would help.
I tried. I do.
A dietitian cannot force you. A nutrition professional cannot force you. So once the person is willing to come and see you, that's a good place to start. Okay. I've had clients who are, teenagers. I've had clients who are 60s and above. So when it comes to that, it doesn't have to be that the person is in a disease state.
Right.
Okay. You can actually approach it in a more preventive nutrition point of view. So you don't understand certain aspects about the food you eat, or you're getting a lot of conflicting information out there in the media. You want a bit of clarity as to what to eat and what not to eat. You can talk to a dietitian.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we're going to get to that, because I think that there is just, so much out there about, and I am plant-based and recently transitioned to more of a raw lifestyle. And as much as I will advocate for plant-based, I also understand the limitations and access points that some people might have, but we'll get to that. You said something called preventive nutrition. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about that for people to understand. What is preventive nutrition?
Okay. So preventive nutrition is an approach to nutrition and wellness, or nutrition and well-being, where you actually take steps or proactive steps to ensure that you're eating the right nutrients in the right quantities to promote the best kind of health your body can possibly have. Okay, you're not waiting to a disease state. You're not waiting to an instance where there's a lot to be dealt with or managed before you start taking steps towards nutrition. You're actually proactively taking steps to ensure that you're eating well, your habits, nutrition habits are also right. Because whenever we talk about healthy eating, we only focus on the food. We don't focus on the lifestyle or the habits. A lot of people forget about that aspect. But then you may be eating the healthiest of foods, but you're not eating it in the right way.
In the right quantity.
Some problems, okay.
And nutrition is not just like what ingestion is not just what you eat. It's what you see, what you hear,
Digestion starts from sight, starts from smell.
Emotions.
Yes.
Right.
You know? So you need to be a bit more conscious about what you're eating, how you're eating, your nutrition or your food culture or your food lifestyle in general.
Major shout out to El Loco and Loco House, as well as Slum Studios. Slum Studios is a responsible fashion company that does not do fast fashion. In fact, they upcycle fashion. So everything I'm wearing today is recycled, including these beautiful coconut shell buttons. I got them from El Loco. Go check out Slum Studio. Check out El Loco, Loco House. Okay, so we talked preventive nutrition. We're in Ghana. One of the biggest questions I get in Ghana is it hard to be vegan in Ghana? For me, I always say no, because I feel like once you tell your brain what to look for, it finds it. And I really do feel like Ghana, if not the best place to be vegan, is absolutely one of the best places to be vegan. So what are popular misconceptions about nutrition and what's nutritious and what's not nutritious? Because my dad was listening to a radio station one day and somebody came in and said that wele was a good source of fiber.
Last time hearing this.
I swear. My mother was like...
Okay, yeah. When it comes to nutrition, there are a lot of misconceptions regarding nutrition. There are a lot of exaggerated truths. Wele has been a debate for a long time. A lot of people have been on the side that, let's just eat it because it has nothing in it. It's just for pleasure. And on the other side too, we are a bit more concerned about it because of the food safety issues, because of carcinogenic issues as well. But as to fiber, wele doesn't have fiber. Yes, it's the hide of the animal, the skin of the animal. But in terms of roughage,s
yes,
I don't know why you even relate it to fiber.
Yes, because dietary. So let's talk specifically. Dietary fiber is these oligosaccharides, and that is specifically a plant thing, right? It has to do with plant walls and, cell walls and all these things. So can we let people know, what is dietary fiber? So somebody won't come and say, wele is fiber and we just take it. Roughages, as they call it.
So when we talk about dietary fiber, we get the sources of dietary fiber is quite a lot. But then, chiefly it comes from the plant sources.
Or fungi sources.
Or fungi sources, yes. Okay. So when you take dietary fiber, yes, you can get it from the whole grains. There are cheap sources of dietary fiber. So your whole wheats, the whole corn, the bran or the skin of the corn, that's also a source of fiber. You can get it from the fruits. The fruits and the vegetables as well. So whatever fruits you're having, you may think something like banana doesn't have roughages, but banana is filled with soluble fiber, a lot of it. Your watermelon has a lot of water, but then there's a lot of roughages of fiber in there. You can go in for your pineapples, your orange, the chaff you get in there. That's also a form of fiber, insoluble fiber. Okay. Now you can also find your fiber from vegetables. So we can start with the cabbages, the cruciferous vegetables. Right. You can get your cabbages,
it's easy to come by.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite common. I mean, every corner you get a cabbage somewhere. Yeah. You can also get your fiber from the carrots. You can also dial it back to your local veggies. So your dandelion, your alefu, ademe, depending on the part of Ghana you're coming from. Okra is a good source of fiber. I mean,
I'm a fan.
Yeah, so whether you're making a stew with it, whether you're stewing it up or you're making a soup with it, that's also a source of fiber you're getting in there. Then you go in for the fungi, which is the mushrooms. In Ghana here, for some of the recipes, the local recipes, you can just dice up some mushroom in there. So as you make your plate or your bowl or your meal, you find ways of incorporating fiber in there. But wele is not the way to go.
Well, if you're looking for fiber, wele is not the way to go. Now, gosh, I just want to talk to you about everything. There's like but there are also questions about a lot of packaged foods that are on our market right now. I know there's some, I won't mention some. But I did a video that's coming up later about, certain foods that really, in my opinion, really are long-term, they're really killing us. And one of them being sort of like certain food additives, like monosodium glutamate. And a lot of people don't understand because there are studies that say this is incredibly dangerous, and every now and then there's a new study that says, oh, that's not as dangerous as we thought it was. And so, on your opinion as a registered dietitian, what is sort of your position on MSG or what have you?
Yeah, I think for so many years now, we've been gradually exposed to our taste palette. So our tongues have been gradually exposed to the umami taste. Yeah. Okay? And as human as we are, we exposed to it in very smaller bites, but then we start to have a hunger for more. Yeah. Okay. And it's quite addictive. The natural umami taste, it's quite addictive. It's very pleasurable when it's in the food. Okay. But nowadays, there are a lot of foods that we may know and others we do not even suspect have MSGs, but they do have minute content of MSG in there. And even with the local recipes that we have out there, there are some homes that actually cannot make. There's some, I don't want to say homes, but there's some people who actually cannot make a meal without adding
MSG sources of some sort.
Yeah, okay. Right. And that's a problem. Because as time goes on, it has an addictive tendency, and you tend to eat more of the food, and it spirals into other nutrition and health issues. And there's literature that supports that sometimes excessive exposure to these MSGs tends to trigger other health-related problems. They've linked it to cancer. They've linked it to gut health. Yeah. Obesity is on top there when it comes to the effects of MSG. So I would advise that we try to wean ourselves of it. If you are one who is very much addicted to it, you add it to your egg, you add it to your noodles, you want to add it to everything you make in a day, even grounded pepper. That's a problem. That's an addiction, okay? So try and wean yourself of it. There are ways of incorporating the umami taste into our foods without opting for the processed MSGs. Right. I know of the seeds of green pepper or bell pepper.
Oh, those taste great.
Yes. So the seeds, you mix it with onions, garlic, ginger, blend it up, and you have that umami taste.
Umami flavor.
Yeah, I think I was just talking to you and you mentioned of the fermented fish, coconut oil. There are ways of incorporating flavor into your food without necessarily going for the processed MSG.
Right.
Because they're very addictive.
Right. And if you cook, we're going to talk about overcooking foods, but onions, when they're caramelized, have an amazing flavor. I mean, it almost tastes like a bouillon cube. Yeah. So you can create broths from vegetables, slow cooking it. It will give you that umami flavor as well. At least that's what I have been able to experience. Yeah. This brings me to, our local palate. I think Ghanaian food is delicious. I think it's amazing. It's beautiful. We were just having a long conversation about fufu and, all the great things that come with it. But I think that one of the core questions is, are we overcooking our foods?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Yeah. When it comes to the Ghanaian recipes, I mean, I know people who can cook soup for 2 hours.
I mean, let's be clear.
Abenkwai.
For 2 hours is the sauce. It's,
I know people who start cooking a stew, just tomato gravy, and they go on for 30 minutes, an hour, keep adding things, keep stewing,
Ooh, it sounds good already.
I know. But a lot of times these nutrients, the main essence, aside the pleasure we get out of food, the main essence of eating is to nourish the body. And to nourish the body, you're getting it from the nutrients that are the naturally occurring nutrients in the food. Some of them are quite sensitive to heat. Some of them are quite sensitive to like over processing and the rest. So it's very important that when we are cooking our meals, we should consider that we are trying to preserve these nutrients so that from farm to table, we have significant amounts of these nutrients still intact to nourish our bodies. There are people, I would take the Ghanaian stew as an example and walk you through it. There are people who start making the Ghanaian stew or the tomato gravy with the oil. They fry the onions, they add the tomato, fry it up a bit. They'll now add maybe stock, fry it up a bit. Like they just keep adding things and frying it up for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes and all of that. You can actually start with, there are people who start stew with water as a base, boil up the tomato for a while, then they add the, what do you add after that? Maybe your protein sauce. Right. Yeah, you add that. Then afterwards, they start adding the sensitive vegetables. So they'll now chop in their onions.
So it's crunchier. It's retaining more of the natural water.
And the cooking time is very little. And at the end, they may now just add like a tablespoon of oil to it just to balance it out. We are not saying take out oil from your meals. You just need an amount of it in there. But then at the end of the day, you tend to lessen the cooking time. You tend to preserve the sensitive ingredients. And by the time it gets to your plate on the table, you still have all of that intact. You can also go with the, like, put it side by side with the raw foods. Okay. Right. So you have your soup, but then you have your maybe steamed vegetables on the side to go with your soup.
Lightly steamed, not
cooked till it's mushy. No, lightly steamed on the side to have all the nutrients intact. So you're balancing it out, and you find a sweet spot in between and balance it out. I think that's the way to go. Earlier we were talking about shito. I mean, if you see someone prepping for shito, you see them going in with the ingredients, like peeling the onions, peeling the ginger.
The concentration of, the onion, the garlic, and ginger.
Wow. And that's a lot of nutrients. That's a lot of antioxidants, good nutrition for your body. But then the cooking time of shito.
Standard, minimum.
2 hours. I mean, people, depending on the quantity, you can start making shito in the morning and end in the afternoon. Yeah. That's a long cooking period. At the end of the day, it tastes so good. You would want to add it to almost everything, but then it lacks a lot.
At the end of the day, it's just oil and pepper.
And literally, we can compare it to junk food.
Really?
It's high in calorie, but very little nutrition. Yeah, you can liken it to junk food because we define junk food as a food item that has loaded in calories. Yeah, it's food-like. Yeah. It's loaded in calories, but then it has very little nutrition.
Oh gosh, but shito is so good, and a lot of people add the A1, the MSG into that for that umami flavor as well.
Yeah. And like you said, there are ways in which you can actually get that naturally, but then a lot of people load it with the MSGs and the bouillon powders and the rest.
Yeah. Okay. So we're in Ghana. You and I both, we'll probably leave this conversation. Somebody in this room is going to go eat shito. And so somebody's like, okay, well, this is great information, but like, I'm from Ghana. I use my grandma's recipe, and we also have to remember food. You mentioned that food, aside from the pleasure, we also have to fuel and nourish ourselves. Yeah. There's so much that goes into food. There's so much connection. A few months ago, I had Chef Binta here, and she cooks from a place of showing people her Fulani culture. And she made this delicious fonio mango salad. It was practically raw, except for the fonio that was, lightly cooked. And so that was a great way of sort of like fusing. And she had wild honey and sort of what is common in Fulani cooking. And I loved how she fused, Fulani food staples into this beautiful, it was like a kale mango salad with fonio. Oh God, we had a feast. And so I love that fusion. So how do we bring that to some of our cooking? And using shito as an example, how can we say, okay, you know what, Sally, you're going too far. That's my grandma's recipe. We take pride in our shito. We gather around the making of it. It's 2, 3 hours, 4 hours. And it is a gathering point for me, my mom, my sister, my aunties. so those days exist, and we don't want to touch those days. We don't want to take away the value of those days. But for the days that we are interested in a quicker, more nutritious shito, what are some hacks, I guess, we can look at?
Okay, so when it comes to trying to add a healthy twist to shito,
it's impossible.
It's not. We can try. Trying to add a healthy twist to shito or any other family recipe.
Yeah.
One thing you need to look at is maybe have a look at the recipe again. If there are some minute things you can switch up. If there are some ingredients you can swap.
Like less oil, maybe?
Less oil is a way to start.
Shito drinks oil, so you need the oil.
Yeah, you know, they say shito drinks oil, and shito, you need a lot of oil to preserve it.
The preservation.
Yeah. But then, I mean, sometimes when you're also serving it onto your plates, it will be best if you drain out the oil a bit.
Hey, but the oil is the flavor. Sometimes you don't need all the shito, you just want a little of the oil to mix it in.
Okay. We are trying to make the oil preserve the shito.
Okay.
Instead of using about 5 centimeters of oil on top of the shito, you can dial it down to about 2.
Right.
It will still preserve the shito. It won't make the shito go bad.
Okay.
Or you can preserve it in smaller quantities so you have lesser oil on top. Okay. So instead of using maybe a 5-liter gallon of oil to make your shito,
my preferred is coconut oil with shito anyway. So.
Right from the beginning, you can bring it down to maybe half. Let's start with half. That's a good way to go. So about 2.5 liter of oil to start your shito. I know one key thing that goes into shito is the onions, the ginger, the garlic, that paste. Okay. One thing.
And sometimes use the dried pepper, and then I sort of, so the pepper powder or whatever.
So with those ones, sometimes when there's a lot of water in the paste, you need to fry it up for a longer time. So when grinding it, previously people used to, in the north, they pound the vegetables. Yes. In some cultures, they grind it on the stone. We tend to blend it a lot of time. It saves time.
City girls.
Yeah. But you know, there are people who would add a bit of water into the blender to speed it up. So maybe, I know there are some food processors. If you're lucky to have a food processor, you can just blitz it up a bit instead of grinding it into
so almost like a paste. Yes. Right. So like, I see this with, in Thai cooking, they make a curry paste from, or even Indian cooking without adding water.
Yeah. So the frying times tends to be less. It needs lesser water to fry up.
That makes sense. So you're just using sort of like the natural water of the vegetables themselves without sort of having to cook out the excess. Yeah. So it brings down the cooking time and could save you more nutrients.
And it saves you a little bit more oil. Okay.
As well, you don't have to preserve it.
Yeah. I know other people, the recipes may be different. There are people who I've not really had, some people like their shito to be like a stewy consistency. So they may be adding tin tomato. My mom adds tin tomato to her shito. Some recipes do not require tomato.
I don't use tin tomatoes.
If you use tomato, you need more oil to fry it up.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe swapping it, taking a bit of the tomato out. If that's your family recipe, you still need a tomato in there. Maybe using lesser of that, but more of the vegetables or the spices, as I mentioned. Yeah. Another way to make it a bit more healthy is by, if you're not vegan, is by utilizing the fish powders. So I know people add shrimp powder. There are people who add fish powder, the Keta schoolboys, or the anchovies. They dry it up and then pound it into a powder into the shito. That tends to give it a fishy, if you like fishy flavor, that tends to give it a fishy and a savory taste instead of adding the bouillon later on.
But some people will do both. So they'll do the shrimp, the fish. I mean, how I grew up was that my mom did the fish powder and the shrimp powder. No bouillon. We didn't really grow up eating too many of that.
So instead of, what you can do is actually flavor it up with the natural spices, the natural fishes, and add salt. And you're good. Like you have that natural earthy taste, like natural flavor in the shito.
And there's so many local spices that are just beautiful. You go to the local market and you ask for shito spices. They will show you. They'll say, okay, this is a little bit of coriander, cloves. I use cloves in my shito. Here is, you know, the local black pepper, the local white pepper, all of that, all grown here. So part of it is also just exploring. I'm learning.
And I think from experience, when it comes to the healthy lifestyle in Ghana, a lot of time I think we just stick to what we know.
And we also assume it has to come from outside. Yeah.
We think it's foreign. It needs foreign ingredients, foreign plants and vegetables, expensive. Sometimes the thought of it alone just puts us off. We think that it's so expensive, let me not just go into it. And we also think that this is what I know, let me just stick to it, rather than experimenting with a new recipe. Or even our old recipes, we find it hard to switch it up a bit. We just stick to it. And that's what holds people back from trying healthier options in Ghana. From my experience, I mean, it may be different. I don't know if you've experienced that.
Yeah, and it's all here. I tell people all the time, you can switch it up. So I made a red recipe where I used the red beans instead of the white beans. And I didn't use tinned tomatoes. I used fresh tomato, and it was almost like I still use palm oil, but it was almost kind of like flash fried, or, you know. And then I pre-cooked the beans. So it was like, okay, chopped up my onions, chopped up my garlic, threw in, you know, bell peppers, I just chopped up the tomato. I didn't even puree it down. Stir fried it, threw in the beans, threw in coconut cream, and we were done.
Wow.
And everybody asked the crew, they're here, they're not on camera, but everybody, my husband came home and he was like, I don't know what you did to these beans, but this is delicious. And I think that, like, I use coconut cream in everything. So I make jollof rice with coconut cream and, you know, just everything with coconut cream. And it kind of saves me extra oil because coconut is already a bit natural oily. Yeah, it's a natural occurring oil. But you're absolutely right about, we have such a large flavor profile here in Ghana. And sometimes most restaurants have jollof rice that tastes the same every single place you go. And I'm just like, there is such a diverse flavor profile in this country. Why aren't people, you know, and my mother used to do it when we were kids. So today there was, you know, coconut milk in our jollof rice. The next day there's more money. You know, she's going to play around with the flavors. And I think we get you know, I told someone that my grandma used to make abom with peanut butter.
Yeah.
And every time I say that, people look at me like, peanut butter, why would you do that? And I'm just like, it's literally a family recipe and it's like world famous. So like, it is a way of enhancing flavor. And I think sometimes we become so obsessed with, you know, we take things that are very personal and say, no, this is the Ghanaian way. And it's like, so cultures can evolve and cultures can change and cultures can grow. And if our innovation includes peanut butter, in fact, it's not even an innovation. I feel like it's an old thing that's been lost.
Yeah, and they added to. I was that person who heard of the combination. I was like, oh my gosh.
How in the world, right?
Yeah, I heard of the pepper. You know, with the abom, there are different kinds of abom. Yes. They have the pepper with the tomato, and the nyadua, the garden eggs. And they add peanut butter to it, or granite. They just grind it up.
That's how I grew up eating abom,
add the palm oil to it. Yeah. When I had that combination, I was like, oh my God, like, why would you do that? That sounds nasty.
The flavor is insane.
But when I tried it, it was really good. And when you try to analyze that meal, it's a complete meal. You really don't need any additions of like fish or meat or whatever you want to add to it. Yeah. It's a balanced abom. Yeah. You know, so sometimes we just need to open up.
Overcooked.
It's not less processing.
It's less processing. My family, they kind of like, of course, consomme can get a bit itchy if you don't. So the way I saw it cooked in my family is you cooked your consomme and then you didn't boil the tomatoes, you didn't boil the onion. Maybe you held it over the fire just to toast it on one side and the other side, just light toasted, and you ground it. So almost everything that goes in there is almost in the raw form. Yeah. That's how I ate with the peanut butter as well. And that's how I grew up eating abom. And so when people don't add peanut butter, I'm confused.
Yeah. A lot of times I think it's just opening our minds up to the possibilities, opening our taste palettes up to what can actually be nice. Because we stick to what we know, making stew, tomato stew, and eating away yam or plantain. When you can actually be experiencing like a lot of nutrients and flavor with Peanut butter, boom.
And that's all it takes. Yeah. So as we're wrapping up, there is one more subject that I do want to bring up, and because I don't want you to leave this couch without us touching on the subject. So we've talked about, common misconceptions. We've talked about ways to sort of like healthify or nutritionify, Ghanaian foods that we love, Ghanaian staples that we love. Another thing that I'm seeing come up a lot in Ghana that a lot of people don't know where to go is, as women, there are all these hormonal changes as young women that we're experiencing. And there are a lot of hormonal, I don't even use the word issues, but there are a lot of hormonal concerns coming up, whether it's PCOS or thyroid function or adrenal fatigue or, these questions are coming up, and a lot of times people don't know that what they're dealing with may be hormonal. So in terms of, and I know you and Valerie have the Women's Health and Nutrition platform. So in terms of how do we eat for our hormones? Because we've heard of eat for your gut, but how do we eat for our wombs to start there?
Yeah, when it comes to hormones, I don't want to narrow it down to, you said women, based on the work Valerie and I do. It's mostly us. So a lot of women experience hormone-related issues. Unfortunately, some of them may not know what's going on. They may be experiencing it, all the complications and side effects, but they may not know what's going on. Others are lucky enough to actually have a consultation with a medical practitioner or a doctor, and they know the problem. So they are managing it medically, but they need something to support nutritionally. Unfortunately, as women, let me say unfortunately, a lot of us are concerned about our sizes now. Weight gain and trying so hard to lose weight. And that is also a very common complication of the hormonal issues that women may be facing. I've had teenagers come up to me talking about the PCOS. They didn't know what it was. They thought it was a weird diagnosis. But then when you break it down to them, they understand that, yes, it will affect your weight and you need to address it nutritionally. Okay. There are some women who may not have a hormonal medical related concern, but then they're probably on family planning and they're experiencing the weight changes that comes along with it because of the hormone. So first, how to manage that? You need to seek medical advice. You need to address it like from the medical point of view. Nutrition will not substitute your medical consultation you're getting. You need to get that checked. Maybe if the doctor is putting you on a therapy, there are some therapies that the doctor may put you on that he may have some medications he'll give you for a while, but then you switch to nutrition alone and try and manage it. So first, seek medical consent or medical consultation. Then you need to talk to someone about your nutrition. And the best person to talk to about your nutrition in relation to health and medicine would be a dietitian.
We love the YouTube. We go to Google though. We go to YouTube. We go to Google first.
Will scare you.
And there's so many trends.
Google will freak you out, and you just tend to shift into diet culture. Try and be using something weird to try and manage a medical condition, which would just get you into the weight cycling process. And you keep yo-yoing with your weight and get frustrated, and it turns into a lot of psychological issues, and you have a lot to deal with. So just save yourself the stress and speak to the right person in the beginning. Speak to a dietitian. A dietitian will sit down with you and try to analyze what you've been eating for the past 1 month, the past 2 weeks, since you started having this condition. So when you break things down as to what you're eating, what may be affecting your weight, we may now together, the dietitian is not going to tell you that eat this, don't eat this. No, a dietitian is not a food police. And I think that's what gets people discouraged.
Right, because so when we first talked, and I was like, yo, there are these chocolates I can't stop eating. Yes, I was like, this is vegan ice cream. I was in the States at the time. I was like, Sally, this is vegan ice cream that's delicious. There are these Beyond burgers. And at that time, I was hooked on these almond, chocolate, coconut. And what you told me was like, okay, you want to get back on track with more juicing, more raw foods and that sort of thing. But if you like it, it's fine. And you even gave me a plan and say, okay, I'm going to suggest that once a month, eat without abandon, like eat with all abandon, excuse me, like eat with that sense of like, go in every now and then, you know?
You would reach a point of binging.
Yes.
When you deprive yourself of these things you love a lot, you need to learn how to find a way to sustainably like manage whatever condition you're having. And if you want to go in for short-term like hacks, you would solve it now, but then in the near future, you go back to your old habits.
Let me tell you something, Sally. I've been there, done that. We've been talking. When I decided to switch to raw vegan, I decided to talk to you, and we had a few sessions, which I found really incredibly helpful. It helped me stay accountable to myself and to remember that it, above all, was about nutrition and staying satiated and not obsessing over the weight I was going to lose. And I don't want to say I've stopped working out. I do work out, but I've gotten to the place where I'm doing just 10-minute workouts and I'm fine. Yeah. And I'm even not doing certain things because when you have gone back and forth with disordered eating and body dysmorphia like I have, you have to be very careful what you're exposing yourself to. And right now that's where I am. I'm not obsessing with weight loss. I'm not even calling some of my old trainers because I don't want to be back there.
Yeah.
And
the triggers, you may not
the triggers, for me, a scale is a trigger.
Yeah.
A scale is a trigger. The moment I see it, I feel like I need to be at a certain place. And it got to a point I was working on my trainer and I told him, I said, I just want to go according to how my clothes feel. I cannot stand on the scale. And he was completely understanding of that fact because scales are triggers for me to get into sort of that. Because when I call you, you're like, Nani, you're doing fine. And I'm like, that part of me that wants to obsess over my weight, wants to obsess over everything I'm eating. So I just want to say, thank you. You've been an incredible resource in my journey. Even as someone who I consider myself pretty knowledgeable, but like just that coaching has done so much for me. You have no idea. You've practically saved my life in many ways.
Aww.
So thank you. Thank you so much, Sally.
Yeah, and I mean, your journey has been quite interesting.
Right?
But not quite, very interesting. Very interesting. I remember the first time we spoke, you actually gave me a lowdown on your eating journey or history. And it was very interesting to see you go through all the phases. Yeah. You mean you've done most of the diets. You've been there, done that. Bought a t-shirt.
Right?
Yeah. And it was interesting to hear you tell me about things you experimented, things you did, how it made you feel, and how it got you to the point where you're like, okay, I want to do this the right way. I mean, and just talking about it now tends to save others the stress of going through all of that. So it's best to just see someone and talk to the person about your diet. But see the right person, because you may see the wrong person. He'll tell you a lot of things. You go experiment, put your body into certain stress. And with the hormones, your body's already going through some metabolic stress on its own, metabolic changes on its own. You are adding some level of psychological stress because you're going to someone, person's telling you some weird things you cannot do, but you're forcing yourself to do it. And it's not working. You're breaking down in the middle of the night and worrying about your weight and your journey and your weight loss. Now, and that's also going to trigger something because there are people who are emotional eaters. Yes. They eat according to their emotion. They try to cope with their emotions through food. And in trying to lose the weight, you are in a phase where you are emotionally eating and you are just going through that cycle. So talk to someone. Let them break down your eating habits, the foods you eat. Together, you can cancel out some things. Together,
and the revelations.
A lot of times we actually don't reflect on what we are eating. Yeah. Someone will come to you and tell you that I don't eat, but I'm gaining weight. How can you be gaining weight like that? But when you start to take a dietary history, the person now reflects and takes a minute and reflects and realizes that, in a day I actually eat like 5 times. I'm a picky eater. I just graze on food.
I'm over grazer. I'm a grazer, so I'm aware of that.
Yeah, and all those things may be added onto your weight. So sit down, talk, take some things out. Together you can try. Your diet. Sorry for using she. Could be he or she. Your dietitian. Your dietitian. Together, I said it again. Yeah. Your dietitian, he or she may recommend some nutritional
changes.
And together you can agree on which one you want to take on now, which one you want to shelve for another time, which one you think you're more comfortable with now. And you start that. And the accountability is a great part of it.
Yeah. And drink water.
Yeah.
We're not drinking water.
Water is a great weight loss tool.
Most of the time, I've heard you're thirsty when you think you're hungry. So start with drinking water.
Yeah. And when it comes to satiety, like the wiring in our body, when it comes to the brain registering that, okay, I'm actually satisfied, there are some baroreceptors or pressure receptors in our tummies, okay, that actually sense that, okay, the body has distended, the tummy has distended to a certain level, and it would send in the signals to trigger your brain that, okay, I'm full.
Bring down the hunger hormones, increase the fullness hormones, right?
So all you can do is just fill up your tummy up a bit before the meal to distend it a bit. Then you have your meal, and then it signals the brain that, okay, satiety has been achieved. So water is a great weight loss tool. We don't drink enough water. We don't add it. When it comes to water, it can even be fluids in a day. So from your soups, from your fruits, these are all adding up to your daily water intake. You don't need to chug like a 5-liter bottle of water every day. No, you can get it from other sources. Now, when it comes to the foods as well, a lot of times with weight loss, something has to go. Okay, you need to make some sacrifices. You cannot just keep them all together and want to achieve your goals.
Free the wele.
I know. Wele is not the way. Yes, you need to make some sacrifice. You need to let certain things go. Okay, so to be willing to maybe let something go for a while. Maybe you can take it. We can find a way to incorporate it back into your dietary lifestyles in some months to come when you have a bit more control over your eating.
Yes. Sally, thank you so much for this conversation. I think that this is at least a very first step towards demystifying what a dietitian does or what a nutritionist does and why it's important to begin to speak to one if you have one accessible to you. And it doesn't cost that much. At least Sally does. I don't know about the other people. So, right. And folks, drink water, eat fiber. That is the basis of this. Thank you for watching with amazing dietitian, my dietitian, Sally Kokoro. I really enjoyed this conversation because it speaks directly to my own journey going through all the ups and downs of diet culture, disordered eating, and finally being in the place where I have satiation, not just in what I eat, but also in my body. If you like this episode, go ahead and like it, because what else are you going to do? Also, don't forget to go over to nanakrama.com where all the fun goes down. You can check out other videos that I have there and join the conversation. And thank you so much for watching Nana Krama TV. See you next time.